Awaken your spirit, chosen one. There's something powerful unfolding in the unseen, something only your soul could have sensed before your mind caught up. Someone, somewhere, has had options. People in their life, showing up, shining bright, trying hard to win them over. But here's what no one is saying. They're not impressed, they're not moved, because the one they truly feel pulled toward is you. You've heard all the talk about chemistry, about attraction, about who looks good on paper. But this isn't that. This is different. This isn't interest. This is spiritual gravity, and they can't explain it. They can't shake it. And no matter how many faces they entertain, your soul keeps echoing in their spirit. Because you weren't made to be an option. You weren't born to be picked like a prize. You were sent, handcrafted by God, divinely wrapped in light and hidden in plain sight until the right soul recognized you, not with their eyes, but with their spirit. They've laughed, they've flirted, they've chased, but none of it feels real anymore. Because once the soul has tasted something eternal, temporary, no longer satisfies. It's not that the others did anything wrong. It's that you were designed to do something only heaven could assign. You awaken something they didn't even know was asleep. You carry a frequency that breaks through their distractions, cuts through the noise, and whispers directly to the core of who they are. And now, they're restless. Because when a spirit encounters the one it's known before, from lifetimes, from promises made under starlight, from silent prayers whispered, in the dark it cannot forget. It can't be fooled by fake smiles or surface-level games. The soul doesn't lie, the soul remembers. But if this truth wasn't hidden beneath illusions, if spiritual attraction was obvious, easy, instant, the world would abuse it. People would twist divine connection into lust, into possession, into control. So the divine in perfect wisdom covered it, buried it, protected it, not to hurt you, but to prepare you. Because you're not just a person. They're drawn to you for reasons they don't understand. Your energy calms storms. Your presence silences chaos. You're the eye in the hurricane, the peace in their confusion. And they don't know why, but they feel safe when they think of you. That's not charm. That's calling. And while you sat wondering if you were too quiet, too distant, too different, what you really were was hidden for holiness. You were covered until someone came along who didn't need to be impressed, but needed to be awakened. And now here they are, confused, curious, captivated, not by your looks, not by your status, but by the truth you carry. You are the whisper their soul has been waiting to hear. You are the calm in the middle of their storm. You are the answer they didn't even know they prayed for. And the world may laugh, the world may mock, but let them. Because they don't know what spirit knows. Chosen one, you've always been the rarest thing in the room. That's why you felt so alone in crowds. That's why people tried to make you doubt your worth. But what they didn't understand is that diamonds are formed in the dark, and only those with divine eyes can spot what's truly valuable. So yes, others may surround them. Others may look the part, but only you speak to their soul. And once that's felt, it can't be unfelt. Once the spirit recognizes home, every other house feels empty. This is why you've been protected. This is why it didn't work with others. This is why your silence was louder than their shouting, because you weren't meant to be chosen. You were meant to be revealed. So if you're hearing this now, it's not by chance. It's confirmation. Like this video, subscribe and comment, they feel my frequency, to step boldly into this spiritual alignment. You were never an option. You were always the answer. And now the shift has begun. You feel it, don't you? That quiet pull in your spirit. Like something is shifting, like the winds have changed course, and your name is being whispered in places you cannot see. Something divine is happening, chosen one. You've been walking through life thinking you were overlooked, dismissed, maybe even forgotten. But the truth is, you were never forgotten. You were preserved. And now, what was hidden is about to be revealed. There's someone in your orbit, Someone who's had every reason to be content with their options. People showing up with polished smiles, clever words, all the right appearances. But here's the part no one talks about. They're not moved. Not really. Because deep, down beneath all the charm and noise, their soul is starving for something real, for something ancient, something rare. And that something is you. You're not someone they notice just because you look good or said the right thing. In fact, you probably weren't even trying. You weren't performing, impressing, or competing. You were just being. You were holding space. You were walking in your quiet knowing, grounded in your truth. And that's what their soul recognized. Because when the spirit speaks, the heart listens, even when the mind doesn't understand. And now they're confused. Because what they feel around you can't be explained. It's not butterflies, it's divine alignment. It's that sacred click that happens when two frequencies find each other again after lifetimes apart. They've never told anyone this, but when they're near you, something in them settles. The chaos fades, the noise quiets. You don't make them feel excited, you make them feel home. See, chosen one. The world is full of noise, full of surface-level sparks and shallow connections. But you were never created to be surface-level. You were made of depth, of silence that speaks louder than words, of a presence that leaves an imprint on a soul long after you've left the room. That's why you've never fit in with shallow people. That's why your energy always felt too much for those who couldn't meet you there. Because you were never supposed to blend in. You were designed to be remembered. They've had people laugh at their jokes, mirror their desires, give them attention. But no one mirrored their soul until they stood in your energy. You didn't flatter them. You reflected them. You didn't chase them. You challenged them. And that is something they've never experienced before. But don't mistake their silence for disinterest. Don't let the presence of options confuse your spirit. Because let me tell you something, once someone has tasted a soul connection, distractions lose their flavor. Those other people, they were loud, they were impressive, but they weren't you. You see, being a chosen one means you come with a different kind of light, a quiet light, one that doesn't beg to be seen, but simply cannot be ignored. People don't fall for you, they awaken in your presence, they remember something. They feel something, and that's why they can't shake you, no matter how many other faces surround them. Because you don't entertain their ego, you speak to their eternity, and that can be terrifying for someone who's lived their whole life based on what looks right, what feels convenient, what pleases the crowd. You don't please the crowd. You pierce through illusion. You challenge people to see beyond the physical, beyond the temporary, into something more sacred, more real. And when someone isn't ready for that, they'll try to run, they'll distract themselves, they'll entertain the noise, but deep down, they'll be haunted by the echo of your presence, because the spirit knows what it wants, and it doesn't forget. Don't lower your light because someone else is confused. Don't shrink your soul to fit their delay. This is not about rejection, it's about recognition. And the truth is, their soul already chose you. It's just taking their mind a little longer to catch up. Because while others offered comfort, you offered truth. While others offered attention, you offered alignment. And that kind of pull cannot be replicated or replaced. Chosen one, you are not competing. You were called. You are not an option. You are a spiritual assignment. You didn't come to play games. You came to break patterns, to shift atmospheres, to awaken sleeping hearts. And yes, that makes you intimidating. That makes you unforgettable. That makes you rare. So don't envy the ones they laugh with. Don't doubt yourself because they're still figuring it out. Just know this, you've already been felt in their quiet moments, in their dreams, in their silence. They feel you. And no matter how hard they try, no matter how far they run, they can't outrun a soul contract. You weren't sent to be popular. You were sent to be prophetic. You weren't called to be impressive, you were called to be impactful. And those who are meant for you won't just notice you, they'll recognize you. Because you don't stimulate the senses, you stir the spirit. This is why you've always felt set apart. This is why they couldn't stop thinking about you, even after walking away. Because you didn't leave a mark, you left a mirror. You reflected back to them who they really are. And that is something no one else ever did. So while they sort through their options, while they pretend to be fine, while they sit in rooms full of noise and smiles and shallow thrills, they will feel the absence of your depth, the absence of your peace, the absence of your knowing, because your presence is a sanctuary, not a playground. And no matter how many times they try to ignore it, they'll come to understand that what they're truly seeking is the one who made them feel seen without having to say a word, the one who didn't chase them but called them higher, the one who didn't offer flattery but carried frequency. That's you, chosen one. You are not what they expected, but you are exactly what their soul has been searching for. So stand firm. Stay grounded. Don't dim your light for a soul still learning how to see. Your worth is not determined by their timing. Your identity is not shaken by their indecision. You carry a calling that doesn't require validation. It requires discernment, and trust me, their soul is discerning it, even if their lips never say a word, because when it comes to you, they're not interested in options anymore. They're longing for the one who made them feel again, think again, believe again. That's why they're drawn to you, not for what you show, but for what you hold. And what you hold, chosen one, is sacred. You've wondered why you felt invisible, why you were overlooked in rooms where you knew you carried something powerful, something genuine. You watched others get chosen for their image, for their charm, for their ability to entertain, while you sat in your stillness, knowing you had something deeper to give. And maybe you started to question yourself. Maybe you thought, what's wrong with me? Why don't they see me? But chosen one, hear this truth in your soul. You were never meant to be seen by the wrong eyes. Your invisibility was not rejection. It was protection, because had they seen you before they were ready, they would have mishandled you, misunderstood you, tried to fit your depth into their shallow spaces. You would have dimmed your light just to make them comfortable, and heaven refused to let that happen. So instead, you were hidden. Not because you weren't worthy, but because your worth was too sacred to be tossed into hands that had no idea how to hold it. You weren't invisible. You were guarded by grace. There's a reason the most valuable. Treasures are buried deep, hidden from plain sight. It takes a seeker, a true seeker, to discover what's been placed in the dark. And the ones who bypassed you, the ones who laughed, who chose easy over meaningful, who mistook your silence for weakness, they weren't seekers, they weren't meant to find you, but now everything is shifting. You're not the same person you used to be. The world around you is catching up to what your soul has always known. You are not for everyone, and that's a good thing. You were set apart, carved out of something holy, wrapped in layers of wisdom, depth, and truth. That's why you've felt the ache of loneliness. That's why certain people couldn't stay, no matter how badly you wanted them to. Because your light was never supposed to fit into their shadow. And now, quietly, slowly, those who once thought they had options are realizing that nothing compares to the peace you carry. They're starting to feel it, the emptiness of surface level connections, the hollowness of attention that doesn't see the soul. And while they entertained the noise, your silence spoke volumes. While they chased the glitter, your glow remained steady. While they searched outward, your stillness became a mirror, reflecting everything they didn't want to face. Because when you walk in divine energy, you become a trigger for transformation. You don't just show up, you awaken. Your presence carries light, and light exposes. And some people aren't ready for what they'll see when your light touches them. It's not that you're too intense, it's that you're too real. And realness demands a response. It shakes the illusions. It cracks the masks. It stirs the soul. That's why you've been misunderstood. That's why people backed away when all you did was love them in your truest form. Because love at your level doesn't flatter. It frees. And freedom scares those who've only known cages. But the tide is turning. The distractions are losing their flavor. The noise is wearing thin, and the ones who used to be content with the crowd are starting to crave something more. Something honest, something holy, and when they search for it, your name will rise in their spirit. Not because you demanded their attention, but because your energy became unforgettable, because you weren't just someone they liked. You were someone who activated them. You stirred the waters. You opened something deep. You made them feel, think, question, and no matter how much time passes, no matter who they try to replace you with, nothing feels quite like you, because what you carry can't be copied. You weren't made to compete. You were made to shift the atmosphere, and that's what you've done, even in silence. Your absence is louder than their present distractions. Your energy still lingers. Your words still echo. Your presence still holds space in a heart that's trying to figure out why nothing else feels right anymore. They're losing interest in the noise, the games, the illusions, because once a soul tastes truth, it loses its appetite for lies. Once someone is touched by divine energy, everything else feels artificial. And though they may not have the language for it, they know something's missing. They're restless. And they can't put their finger on it, but their spirit is whispering your name. That's not romance, that's recognition. Recognition of something real, something rooted, something rare. They might not admit it. They might keep trying to distract themselves. But there will come a moment, maybe in the middle of the night, maybe in the middle of a crowd, when they'll feel the pull, a holy pull, and they'll remember the stillness you brought, the truth you carried, the light you never forced, but always held. You see, Chosen One, you don't just enter people's lives, you shift their entire inner world. And yes, that's why you've been feared. That's why people tried to label you, push you away, or act like they didn't care. Because what you bring is not easy. It's not safe. It's sacred. And sacred things are often rejected before they're revered. But keep standing. Keep shining. Because even if their lips don't confess it yet, their soul knows the truth. And the truth is, you've always been different. You've always been destined. And now you're rising into everything you were born to carry. Your season of hiding is ending. The veil is lifting. And those who once chose the crowd will start feeling the absence of your frequency, like a song they can't stop hearing in the background of their life. Because you weren't noise. You were a melody of the divine. You didn't offer entertainment. You offered encounter. You didn't fill space. You brought presence, and presence like yours. It changes people forever. They may have been drawn to the loud ones, the flashy ones, the convenient ones, but none of them made them pause. None of them made them reflect. None of them made them question who they really are and what they're really doing with their lives. You did. You planted seeds in silence. You awakened questions they didn't even know they were afraid to ask. You were the mirror they didn't ask for, but needed. The anchor they didn't recognize until everything else started drifting. And now their soul is searching for that anchor again. Because you weren't just someone who crossed their path. You were a divine interruption, a reminder of what's real, a glimpse of what's possible. A call back home to the truth they tried to forget. Chosen One, don't you dare shrink now. Don't you second-guess the power of your presence. Just because they're silent doesn't mean they're not stirred. Just because they're distant doesn't mean they're not watching. Just because they're distracted doesn't mean they're not listening. Because you carry something that doesn't need to shout. It resonates, and resonance doesn't beg to be heard. It simply remains. You are that resonance. So walk in your knowing, trust the timing, Hold your head high, not in pride but in purpose, because what you offer is not for everyone, but for the ones who are ready. It will feel like finally waking up after a long sleep. They'll know, they'll feel it, and when they do, they won't just see you, they'll remember you, because your soul has always been calling them home. There's a reason you were born different, a reason you never quite fit into the mold the world tried to place you in. You've always felt that quiet sense of being out of place, like your soul was from another time, another realm. You weren't made to blend in. You were made to reflect the divine. And even though it hasn't always been easy, even though the path has been lonely, you carry something sacred that can't be replicated. You were never meant to follow the crowd, chosen one. You were meant to guide them back to truth. That's why your light doesn't scream, it simply radiates. That's why people feel something shift when you walk into a room, not because you're trying to be seen, but because your energy cannot be unseen. You are a mirror, not the kind that flatters, but the kind that reveals. You show people who they really are, beneath the layers of ego, fear, and illusion. And that's why some run from you. That's why some reject you. Because when a soul encounters real love, pure truth, authentic light, it has to make a choice, transform or retreat. And most aren't ready for transformation. But you were never sent to entertain comfort zones. You were sent to shake them. Your very presence is prophetic. You carry within you the whisper of heaven, the code of the cosmos. You don't just speak to ears. You speak to eternity. And that's why no matter how much someone tries to deny what they feel around you, it lingers. It never leaves. Because what they feel isn't infatuation, it's recognition. You don't just show up in people's lives, you activate them. You awaken something that's been buried, something ancient, something eternal. And that's why they remember you, even when they try to forget. That's why they compare everyone else to you, even if they never say it out loud, because you are more than a person. You are a spiritual assignment. You reflect the kind of love that doesn't fade with time, the kind of presence that doesn't vanish with distance. You leave fingerprints on souls, not just memories in minds. And while others offered them pleasure, you offered them purpose. They might have been drawn to beauty, status, or ease, but they couldn't ignore the pull of your presence. Because you weren't offering another temporary thrill. You were offering a glimpse into eternity, and once someone has seen that, no amount of distraction can erase it. You've been wondering why your love is so intense, why your silence speaks so loud, why your energy leaves people unsettled. It's because you were sent to be a catalyst, not a convenience. You were chosen to reflect God's love, not to perform for approval. And chosen one, that kind of love, it costs. It costs. Your comfort, your convenience, sometimes even your connection to people you thought were part of your story. But let me tell you this, it's not a loss. It's an alignment, because the ones who are truly meant for you won't just stay for the light, they'll grow with it. Your purpose is too big to be surrounded by those who are still addicted to the dark. And as painful as it feels to be misunderstood or passed over, what's really happening is that your anointing is being preserved. Because when your love awakens someone, it demands a response. And that response either pulls them deeper into truth or sends them running back to illusion. And when they run, don't chase. When they pull away, don't shrink. Because your value was never tied to whether they stayed. Your value is in who you are, not how they react. You are the message. You are the evidence that real love still exists, that integrity still breathes, that truth is still alive. You are the living proof that spirit still speaks, and that's why you can't fake it. That's why you can't settle. That's why you feel sick when you try to pretend to be anything less than what you were created to be, because you were built for truth, And truth doesn't always feel good. It doesn't always get applause. Sometimes it gets you rejected, misunderstood, isolated. But that's okay, because your role isn't to impress the world. Your role is to illuminate it. And now something is shifting. The timing is aligning. The veil is thinning. People are beginning to wake up from the illusions they clung to, and they're starting to realize what they had in you. Not because you reminded them, but because their soul never forgot. There's someone who thought they could walk away, someone who thought they could replace you, someone who thought they could suppress what they felt in your presence. But every connection since you has felt like a watered-down echo. Every smile has felt forced, every conversation shallow, because once the soul has tasted real, it can't go back to counterfeit. And even if they're silent, they feel it. They feel the absence of your depth. They feel the void where your light used to rest. They feel the way you held space for them, the way your energy calmed storms they never told you about. And now, in the middle of the noise, they miss your stillness. They may not reach out. They may not know how to face what they ran from. But inside, the pull is growing. Because truth cannot be buried forever, and the connection you shared, that wasn't chance, that wasn't coincidence, that was divine orchestration. The universe doesn't play dice. Everything about your presence in their life was on purpose. Every word, every look, every silence. You were the reminder their spirit had been praying for, the answer they didn't recognize at first. But now they can't deny, because your love wasn't loud, but it was eternal. So trust the timing. Let go of the urge to prove yourself. You don't need to explain your worth to those who can't perceive it. You don't need to convince anyone of your value. What's meant to see you will. What's meant to align with you will. Because when spirit speaks, the soul listens. Even when the mind isn't ready. Even when the ego resists. Even when the body runs, the truth has a way of circling back, of finding its way home. And you are that home, not a destination, but a dwelling place for peace, for presence, for purpose. And when someone is finally ready to rise out of illusion and return to truth, your light will guide them. Not because you waited, but because you remained true. So don't you dare lower your frequency. Don't you dare question your light. You are not forgotten. You're not too much. You're not alone. You are the one they remember in silence. You are the one they compare everyone else to. You are the one their soul is magnetized to, even when their actions say otherwise. Because when someone is meant for you, it doesn't take force. It takes alignment. And when that alignment comes, it will be undeniable, effortless, divine. In the meantime, protect your energy, guard your peace, stand in your truth. You are a mirror, a message, a movement. You are the evidence of the divine walking this earth. You are chosen, and being chosen doesn't mean you're better. It means you've been trusted, trusted with the weight of light, trusted with the pain of purpose, trusted to love without conditions, and to let go without losing yourself. And if you've made it this far, if you're still holding on, still showing up, still believing even when you've been broken, then you are exactly where you're meant to be. Not because life has been easy, but because you refused to give up when it wasn't. That's the mark of the chosen, and that's what makes you unstoppable. There's a moment, quiet, powerful, and unmistakable, when spirit decides it's time. Time to reveal, time to align, time to unfold the purpose you've carried in secret for so long. Chosen one, you've been walking through shadows, carrying light, holding on to hope while the world tried to convince you were foolish for believing. But the truth is, you were never foolish. You were foretold. You were sent ahead, not behind. You've always been ahead of your time, sensing things others couldn't, seeing through smiles, hearing beneath words, feeling energy in rooms where no one said a thing. And that wasn't your imagination. It was your anointing. a divine sensitivity, gifted to those who have been called to awaken the sleepers. You weren't sent here to blend in. You were sent here to break patterns, to interrupt generational cycles, to stand where others bowed, to love where others only used, to forgive where others sought revenge. That takes a different kind of spirit, a spirit forged in fire, refined by silence, strengthened in seasons of loneliness and divine delay. It's easy to question your worth when you've spent your life feeling misunderstood, when your love gets rejected, when your truth is too heavy for those still living in illusions, when your loyalty is met with betrayal. But don't let temporary confusion blind you from your eternal identity. You are not here to convince people of your worth. You are here to embody it, because the people who are sent to you will not require explanation. They will recognize your light, not just because of what you do, but because of who you are. They'll feel the shift in your presence, the peace in your voice, the power in your stillness, and they won't just want to be around you, they'll want to grow because of you. That's how you'll know. The one sent by the divine will never drain your energy just to feel alive. They'll protect it, respect it, and pour back into it, because your spirit wasn't made to beg for love. It was created to reflect it. When someone is aligned with you, you won't have to prove your worth, because truth doesn't argue, it radiates. You were never supposed to be liked by everyone. That's not your mission. If the whole world applauded you, it would mean you never challenged the system. And chosen ones, you are the system breakers. You are the ones who were born to make people uncomfortable with their own masks. You stir something ancient in people, and that stirring will either awaken them or drive them away. But their reaction isn't your responsibility. Your only responsibility is to stay aligned with the truth you carry. You were designed to operate on a different frequency, one that can't be manipulated, one that doesn't chase, but attracts. That's why people who mistreated you still think about you. That's why your absence feels louder than their distractions, because what you gave was never superficial. You gave spirit, you gave depth, and you can't compete with that. You can't replace that. You gave something they didn't even know they needed. And now that they've experienced it, nothing else feels right, even if they don't say it, even if they pretend they're unbothered. Their soul remembers. That's what makes you different. That's why your energy lingers. That's why the doors they thought were closed keep pulling at their spirit, because your love didn't flatter. It freed. Your truth didn't entertain, it exposed. Your presence didn't comfort egos, it awakened souls. And that kind of impact? It's not something you can forget. You are the kind of person that shifts trajectories, that plants seeds with a single word, that ignites revolutions in silent ways. Not because you're trying to be loud, but because your frequency commands attention without saying a word. You weren't just chosen for comfort, you were chosen for consequence, for impact, for elevation. And that's why your journey hasn't been easy, because you've been prepared in silence for a moment the world isn't even ready for. But it's coming. Everything you've walked through, every heartbreak, every delay, every silent night when you cried out and heard nothing back, it's all been part of the assignment. You were being shaped for a role that only your spirit could fulfill. And the same pain that tried to break you is the same pressure that has birthed your power. You're not the same as those around you. You can't fake it like they do. You can't wear masks for too long, because the divine truth in you demands authenticity. And yes, that means you lose people. That means you walk alone. That means you feel misunderstood by the very people you tried to love the most. But even that is by design, because solitude is not your punishment, it's your preparation. In silence, you hear spirit clearer. In isolation, you remember who you are. In stillness, your gifts grow louder. You're not being left behind. You're being set apart, elevated in secret, crowned without a crowd, because true power doesn't beg for validation. It walks with knowing. And you, chosen one, walk with something ancient, something eternal, something holy. That's why you've been misunderstood. That's why you've been underestimated, because people see your humility and confuse it for weakness. But what they don't realize is that you've battled storms in silence, conquered pain in private, and you still chose to love instead of hate. That kind of resilience isn't weakness. It's divine strength. And now the tables are turning. The first shall be last, and the last shall be first. Everything that was overlooked will now be exalted. And you are stepping into a season where everything hidden will be revealed. Your name is being whispered in rooms you haven't even entered yet. Your energy is being felt by those who never truly honored it before. Doors are about to open, not because you forced them, but because they were always yours. This is what happens when the Spirit aligns, when divine timing steps in, when heaven decides the wait is over. You are stepping into a time where people will no longer be able to ignore what you carry, where the same ones who turned their backs will have to watch you rise, not in pride, but in purpose, not to prove them wrong, but to prove God right. Everything you've carried in silence, your gifts, your love, your truth, it's time. Not because you've earned it through performance, but because you've endured through purification. And now you're ready, not to chase, not to force, but to receive. Because when you're chosen, you don't have to demand what's already destined. What's aligned will find you. What's yours can't be lost. And what was sent from Spirit will always recognize you, not by your appearance, but by your essence. So walk boldly, speak truthfully, love deeply, and live fully. You are not too much. You are finally enough for what's meant for you. Everything about you has been perfectly orchestrated. The way you think, the way you feel, the way you move through this world with quiet courage. That's not accidental. That's intentional. That's divine design. So don't shrink now. Don't doubt now. Don't question the calling that's followed you your whole life. You were created to shift atmospheres. You are the answer to prayers you didn't even know were being spoken. You are a lighthouse in a world full of storms, and those who are meant for you, they're coming. Not to drain your light, but to walk with it. Not to take from your spirit, but to honor it. Not to use your love, but to grow in it. Because you didn't go through everything you did just to be average. You were chosen to transform, to awaken, to build, to rise, and rise you shall in power, in peace, in full remembrance of who you truly are. You are the one they couldn't replace. You are the one who never needed to compete. You are the one who carried divine light in a world that forgot how to see. You are chosen, and now it's time to be. There comes a point in every chosen one's journey when silence becomes sacred, when pain becomes purpose, and when the very moments that once made you question your worth are revealed as the fire that forged your crown. You've been walking through life wondering why the road had to be so lonely, why your heart had to break so many times, why the world never seemed to recognize the depth you carry. But now you see, it was never about being seen by them. It was always about being known by God. You weren't created to impress people. You were formed to awaken souls, and to do that, you had to be different. You had to walk alone. You had to feel what others didn't, because if you had been just like them, you would have settled where they stopped. You would have stayed small when you were meant to stretch. You would have chased what was convenient instead of answering what was calling you. You were called into a deeper current, and sometimes the waves tried to drown you, but they couldn't, because even when the water was rising, you were anchored in something they couldn't see. You were carried by something they couldn't explain. You had something inside you that kept whispering, "Don't give up. This isn't the end. There's more." And there is more, more than the pain you've endured, more than the betrayals that tried to break you, more than the doubts that haunted your mind. There is more than the silence you sat in, more than the tears you cried behind closed doors. Because, chosen one, you were never buried. You were planted. And what looked like the end was the beginning of your rise. You've been growing roots in unseen soil. While others were blooming for the world to see, you were becoming unshakable. You were digging deep, building a foundation so strong that no storm could uproot it. And now, it's time. It's time for everything in you to rise, to stretch, to shine. Not in arrogance, but in awareness. Not to prove a point, but to fulfill a purpose. You are not who you used to be. You've been refined, tempered like steel, softened in the right places, strengthened in others. You're not just strong, you're spiritually fortified. You've learned to walk with grace through the fire, to hold peace in the middle of chaos, and to trust the process even when nothing made sense. You are the evidence of survival. But even more than that, you are the embodiment of revival. You are what happens when someone refuses to give up. When someone holds on to faith with fatu, bloody hands and a trembling heart. When someone chooses love again after being shattered by it. You are the proof that light never dies. The truth cannot be silenced, that destiny will always find a way. You didn't choose this path, it chose you. And now it's time to walk it with your head high, not because life has been kind, but because you finally know who you are. You are not broken. You are becoming. You are not forgotten. You are hidden for glory. You are not waiting. You are preparing, and all of heaven knows your name. You were not placed on this earth to chase approval. You were sent here to shift atmospheres, to speak truth, to carry healing in your words and restoration in your presence. Your very existence is warfare against darkness. That's why the enemy tried to silence you. That's why life hit you so hard, because the oil on your life is expensive, and anything carrying that kind of anointing will be tested. But look at you, still here, still breathing, still rising, and not just rising, glowing. Even after all the fire, all the ashes, all the losses, you're still here, and that means the enemy failed. It means the lies didn't stick. The betrayal didn't stop you. The delay didn't destroy you. It means your purpose is too heavy to fall, too divine to be forgotten, and too necessary to be ignored. There is something in you the world desperately needs. Something that can't be replicated, something heaven designed uniquely for you to carry. That's why you can't settle. That's why you feel restless when you try to fit into places that don't match your soul. That's why your spirit won't let you stay small. Because greatness calls you, destiny pulls you, and spirit demands that you rise into what you were born to be. You are not late. You are right on time. Every delay was a lesson. Every heartbreak was a redirection. Every closed door was protection. And now is the time for you to walk boldly in what you were prepared for. You've been hidden long enough. You've cried long enough. You've doubted long enough. Now it's time to step forward with the quiet power of someone who knows who they are. No more shrinking, no more waiting for permission, no more questioning whether you're worthy of the dream. God placed in your heart, you are, you always were. It's time to become who you've always been beneath the fear, beyond the trauma, past the pain. You are not defined by what happened to you. You are defined by what was placed within you. And what's inside you is unshakable. There will be moments when fear whispers in your ear, when doubt creeps in, when loneliness tries to weigh you down. But you'll remember. You'll remember the fire you walked through and the voice that carried you. You'll remember the nights you almost gave up and the power that pulled you back. You'll remember the feeling in your gut, the knowing that you were made for more. And that knowing will lead you forward when your eyes can't see the way. Because faith isn't about having all the answers. It's about trusting that your footsteps are ordered, even when the path isn't clear. So trust it now. Trust the stirring in your soul. Trust the timing, even when it feels late. Trust the quiet nudges that say, go, speak, be. Trust the intuition that burns like fire in your belly. That's the divine voice. That's the spirit reminding you that you were made for this moment. You were born to walk with power, to speak with authority, to love with purity, and to lead with grace. You are the breaker of chains, the bringer of light, the answer to generations of prayers, and the beginning of something the world has never seen. Don't run from it now. Don't hide. Don't wait for the world to validate. What God has already confirmed, stand tall, speak life, and step fully into your calling. You were chosen. You are enough, and you're ready. Go. Let the world feel your light. Let the heavens smile at your obedience. Let your ancestors rest, knowing the promise lives on through you. Let your future rejoice, because you've decided to rise. This is your moment. This is your time. This is your becoming.